Good afternoon, or should I say good evening, depending where you are while you're watching this broadcast. I'd like to talk this afternoon on the subject of freedom of speech and how it seems to have been eroded, particularly since 2020. So the first thing I want to talk about is how we seem to be being condemned by the same people as ourselves, particularly when we speak out and challenge the authorities. So, before March 2020, I was told many times, this isn't about me, so please don't think it is. Before March 2020, I was told many times over 3 decades that what I do to help so many people is inspirational and amazing. But come March 2020, all that went out the window. Suddenly, according to those same people, their inspirational, amazing man of wisdom had become a raving lunatic, which is exactly what I've been called. Now, I've also been angrily told by people who should know me better than most that I should get off social media. And why have they said this? Let me tell you why. They tell me that because I didn't do it as they demanded I do, these people only want me to do as they want. But the moment I do what I believe is the right thing to do, regardless of their demands, they tell me to get off my soapbox and get off the internet. Now that kind of concerns me really, because there's a lot of people I'm sure they think the same. So let me ask, these same people that are telling the likes of myself, the likes of me, and you to get off social media and stop talking about what's going on, what are they doing apart from telling us to get off social media? Let me tell you what they're doing. They're throwing curveballs in the way. These are our own people. They're doing nothing for other people. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And yet they have the temerity to tell us to get off social media. Stop spouting. Get off the internet. Which it seems people who have known the likes of myself for years and who know that we don't speak without having substance and foundations to back up what we have to say are now choosing to believe people who have lied in order to climb their own personal success ladder. I find it astounding that people believe the people they don't trust. You know, I had a friend speak to somebody the other side of town a few weeks ago, and she mentioned me standing in the local elections at the Heritage Party behind me, and this person said, well, I've never heard of him. Okay, so just because you haven't heard of me, that means I'm no good. Okay, so you've heard about the Labour, and you've heard about Conservative, and you've heard of the Lib Dems, and what have they done? But you've heard about them, but do you know the people personally who you're now going to vote for? No, you don't. And yet you say I've never heard of him. Again, I use the word a lot, lunacy. It's lunacy, it's borderline insanity. But there you go. The crazy thing is people listen to and believe in the exact same people they say they don't trust. Which again is mad. I just don't understand it. The world's gone mad. People need to ask themselves a question. Why are so many highly respectable people speaking out and putting their reputations on the line when we have absolutely nothing whatsoever to gain? The list of these people are endless. From Dr. Mike Yead and Dr. Asim Malhotra, Dr. Pierre Corey and so many more, all by the way banned or censored from social media and mainstream media platforms. So why have they been banned? Don't forget we're talking about freedom of speech. So why have they been banned? Well, let's think. If you don't want to hear what someone is saying, what do? You censor them. Now, if they're talking gobbledygook, they're talking nonsense. Let them talk nonsense. Let them fall by their own sword. But no, let's censor them. That to me tells me that they don't want that message being put out there. Let's have a look at Andrew Bridgen MP. He's the latest, I hate the word victim, but he's the latest to have suffered for speaking out. As soon as Andrew began speaking out against what's now going on, he was ridiculed. He was talking in the House of Commons, and other members of the House got up and walked out. Now let me ask you, those members of the House, who are they representing? They're representing you and me, but they don't listen. They walk out. It's not about what they believe. It's not about their opinion. This is about them representing the people they say they took an oath for. So if they took an oath, stand up for it, sit in that house, and you listen to Andrew Bridgen MP and listen to what he has to say. You don't walk out, because that's not your job. Your job is to represent the people. And any MP that walks out while another MP is talking about concerns that relative to what's going on in the world, shame on you. Shame on you. So Andrew Bridgen, he spoke, and he was ridiculed, abused, and finally he's now been expelled by the Conservative Party because he spoke out against the efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccines. And Andrew refused to be silenced, and good for him. But I've got to say, is it any wonder that other people, including high-profile people, are afraid of speaking out? Instead, they look at Andrew and Mike Geedon, Alcine Malhotra, Pierre Coy, etc., etc., and they say, what's happened to them when they spoke out? Oh, I'm not going to speak out, I'm going to lose my job. So they stay and they keep quiet, because Andrew and Mike and Alcine and Pierre are what the globalists do when you speak out against them. So is it any wonder that other people, including high-profile people, are afraid of speaking out? Instead, they remain in the closet, so to speak. That's not freedom of speech, folks. So people will always follow people. I've noticed that throughout my life, that if you're one, you're on your own. If you're two, you get two. You need to get three. And then it builds up. And the more creates more. A bit like money. If you've got nothing, you stay with nothing. You get your first £100, first £1,000, first £2,000. It all builds up quickly. So people follow people, and until they start being true to themselves, this will continue. So people need to start to listen. Instead of just telling people like me that I'm a raving lunatic, whereas once I was an inspiration, people need to start to look into things. We've got Agenda 2030 on the doorstep here. Where you won't be able to leave your district. If you leave your district more than 100 times a year, you're going to get a fine. You want that for your kids? You want that for your grandkids? I actually spoke about it, about what's coming about 2 years ago. A colleague of mine on a group that I run, he said, "Terry, I really respect you. You always speak your mind, and you speak so truthful." I mentioned about people, not specific to one person, but are people going to let this happen? Are you going to let your grandkids down? I got home from work that day, and that friend who told me he's so respectful, not only had he removed the friendship, he actually blocked me as well. So that's how bad it is. They took it personal. Well, it will be personal, trust me, when it affects your grandkids? Madness. So, when I put myself forward to stand in the local elections, I was again told at a community meeting, Terry, why would you put your fine reputation on the line? You know that people don't believe or trust politicians, so why do it? Why would you risk everything that you've stood for so many years to now be labelled a bent politician? Well, let me tell you what I say in response. If you're standing outside and looking through the window of a dirty house, are you able to clean that house while standing outside? Well, the answer is obvious, it's no. So by getting inside the dirty house, you are now in a position where you can tidy up that chaotic mess and make it a home worth living in. If we don't get in amongst the dirt, how on earth are we going to clean it up? The dirt in this case, is, as far as I'm concerned, is where politics is today. A dirty house which needs cleaning up. So that's why I'm standing. That's why I'm standing for the Heritage Party, because we need to get in that dirty house and clean it up. Because at the moment it's not fit for purpose. It's certainly not fit for habitation. So let's also look at council surveys. When's the last time you saw a survey put out there where you didn't have to hunt for it? Why is it that important surveys that will affect all those who reside within the borough aren't easily found or accessible? Why is it that we have to stumble upon something we didn't even know existed? Let me bring you to the latest survey. If I hadn't dug deeper after being sent something from Thetford's incredible Mike Ball, I would never have come across the Ipswich Borough Council survey on LTNs and the 15-minute cities and Suffolk County Councils. So it makes me wonder why these important surveys aren't put out as a standalone document for all the public to see, instead of being concealed within links, within other links, where it's nigh on impossible to find unless, like me, you did a lot of digging. This survey that was run by Suffolk County Council, it was so well concealed that you wouldn't have found it. And if Mike hadn't sent me that link, I wouldn't have found it. That survey, I believe, is now closed. It ran for 12 weeks. Now, why wasn't that put out there? You have to ask yourself the question, why are these things being concealed? Because the survey should be for the people. If it's going to affect the people, then it should be for the people and not hidden from the people. So let's have a look back at where we first began back in March 2020. How many of you were told you're not a scientist, so why are you questioning the jabs? I know I certainly was. So let me give you my answer to that. I'd say Boris Johnson isn't a scientist, so why is he pushing the jabs? I'm questioning them. Boris is pushing them, he's not a scientist. It's not much at all, to be honest with you. And remember, this is the same Boris Johnson who once had his own newspaper column where he wrote on October the 25th, it's imprinted in here, it has been for years, where he wrote on October the 25th, 2007, and I'm going to read it out, not the whole lot because it's long, but I've taken some bits out. The debate is surely now unavoidable. It is time we had a grown-up discussion about the optimum quality of human beings in this country and on this planet. Do we want the southeast of Britain already the most densely populated major country in Europe, to resemble a giant suburbia. This is a straightforward question of population and the eventual size of the human race. All the evidence shows that we can help reduce population growth and world poverty by promoting literacy and female emancipation and access to birth control. Isn't it time politicians stopped being so timid and started talking about the real number one issue? The world's population is now 6.77 billion, roughly double what it was when I was born. If I live to be in my mid-80s, then it will have trebled in my lifetime. The UN last year revised its forecasts upwards, predicting that there will be 9.2 billion people by 2050. And I simply cannot understand why no one discusses this impending calamity and why no world statesmen have the guts to treat the issue with the seriousness it deserves. So how the hell can we witter on about tackling global warming and reducing consumption when we are continuing to add so relentlessly to the number of consumers? The answer is politics and political cowardice. There was a time in the 1960s and 1970s when people such as my father, Stanley, were becoming interested in demography, and the UN would hold giant conferences on the subject. And it was perfectly respectable to talk about saving the planet by reducing the growth in the number of human beings. But over the years the argument changed, and certain words became taboo, and certain concepts became forbidden. And we have now reached a stage where the very discussion of overall human fertility, global motherhood, has become more or less banned. We seem to have given up on population control, and all sorts of explanations are offered for its surrender. And then in recent years, the idea of global population control has been more or less stifled by a pincer movement from the right and the left. As for the left, they dislike suggestions of population control because they seem to smack of colonialism and imperialism and telling the third world what to do. And so we have reached the absurd position in which humanity bleats about the destruction of the environment, and yet there is not a peep in any communique from any summit of the EU or UN, G8, about the population growth that is causing that destruction. Now that was Boris Johnson's comments, not mine, Boris Johnson's. I've just read them out. If you want the link, message me later. I'll send you the link. It's all Boris's words, not mine. But we're expected to believe Boris Johnson wants to keep us useless eaters alive. Good old Boris. He wants to keep us alive after all. All of us. Somehow I don't believe he's telling the truth. Do you? Going by what he said above. Also, remind me again, how many children does Boris Johnson have? Look it up. How many children does Boris Johnson see that are his? And yet he wants to reduce the world population. As long as it doesn't affect them, it must affect us. So Boris isn't talking about reducing the world population of those up there. He's talking about reducing the population of us lot, us useless eaters. Bill Gates. Bill Gates isn't a scientist. In fact, Bill Gates is he formed Microsoft way back, and strangely enough, what was one of the things that happened after? Computer viruses. What did Bill do? Created an antivirus to deal with the virus. Couldn't make it up really, could you? So Bill Gates isn't a scientist, so why is he pushing the jabs? And remember, this same Bill Gates did a TED talk on population reduction. So it seems to me that if you have copious sums of money, you're entitled to promote something if you're wealthy. But if you're ordinary Joe Public, you don't have the same entitlement. And like I said before, what concerns me is ordinary Joe Public speaks up for ordinary Joe Public. I'm speaking up for you lot, because you lot are the ones watching. Bill Gates isn't, Boris Johnson isn't, and all the others aren't. I'm speaking up for you lot. And what do you lot say? Get off your soapbox, get off the internet. What do you want to do? Just carry on watching the TV? It's crazy. The people you don't allow are you, the ordinary Joe Public. You want to silence us whilst continuing to listen to the ones who lied to you. Same behaviour. Now, also remember that the likes of myself have listened to both sides of the debate and done our research and due diligence, and by listening to scientists in favour of the jabs and scientists against the jabs. Now, in my book, that's called balance. It's called balancing a debate. It's called getting both sides of the story. And then it's called coming to our own conclusions based on the evidence available to us. How much evidence have you looked up? Let's have a look at the state of the roads. The neglected potholes, which continue to damage our vehicles. I noticed that there's a lot of political parties now jumping all over that one. It's a shame they don't jump into the bloody things. But no, they're jumping all over the potholes and saying that, yeah, we will sort that out. Oh, strange that, it's because it's election time, you're going to sort it out. I only know one councillor in Colchester. I'm not going to name him, but he knows who he is. His name's Dave, and he knows the rest. Brilliant man. Walks the walk, talks the talk, does it all. He fights for the people. So when I see him doing his election campaigns, I have nothing but respect and admiration. But for the others from the big two who are using the state of the roads, our suffering, as their platform to say we will sort this out. Well, why don't you sort it out now? Do it before the election. Go and fix the holes before the election. Don't make promises and let down, because that's what you always do. That's why I'm standing. Do you think at 65 I want to stand as a politician? No, I don't. But a lot that are in charge at the moment, the mob that are in charge at the moment, are letting us down hand over fist. There's some amazing people in Thetford who are doing some great things. You know, they've got, I think they've got 11 people standing in Thetford for the people. Again, people like me, not politicians, but people who are speaking up. In the first time in my life, I'm seeing ordinary people, ordinary Joe Public, taken to the political arena like I've never seen before. Ask yourselves why they're doing that. So it takes me back to the state of the roads, the neglected potholes which continue to damage our vehicles. Every year we have to put our vehicles through an MOT to make sure they're safe to use on the roads. But the roads are no longer safe or fit for our vehicles. How has this been allowed to continue unchallenged? Who exactly is checking the quality of our roads and the repairs that have been done? Because it seems to me that the road surfaces and repairs are substandard and not fit for purpose. Let's also look at where smart city companies such as Volker have installed cables underneath the road surfaces. These works have left the roads looking unsightly, ugly, and rumble away when you're driving on them like you're on a railway track. It's a disgrace, and all I've mentioned needs to be addressed and sorted. The relationship between the motor car and the road needs to be one of mutual respect, and right now the motor car is being abused by the people who are supposed to be looking after our roads, by the people who take our road tax. We pay road tax, that's what it's called. So they need to start fixing the roads. Because if I get in, and people like the boys in Thetford, I think Thomas Paine Hotel, I believe, I think that's where they're working from. You know, if they get in as well, then there will be changes. Okay, so let's have a look at climate emergency. Let's have a look at this one. Okay, so tell me, where is this so-called emergency? Whilst out on the streets yesterday, myself and a member of our campaign team noticed how clear the air was, how clear the sky was, and on breathing in, how clean the air was. Now, I was born in the 50s, so I'm now old enough to remember the good old days of the 60s, when we woke up to smog and polluted skies, which blighted our view at street level. There were times when you could barely see 30 foot in front of you. You could see it, you could smell it, you could almost feel it. I remember, you know, as a schoolboy waiting for a bus, you know, and the bus was almost on top of you before you saw it because of the fogs and smogs. Now, fortunately, there has been a lot of work done on improving the air quality down the years, and never has our air quality been so good. And yet we're now told that there's an emergency. So now I'm going to ask a question. What emergency? And where is the evidence? Remember, you cannot just claim something without showing evidence. Again, we're working with the boys in the Thetford team. You know, there's some great brains working in there, and I'm privileged to be able to be working with them. And one of the things that I've learned from the likes of Mark and Brian, Bob, Mike, Jeff, the list goes on, is if you make a claim, show the evidence. Because a claim without evidence is no claim at all. Show the evidence. So how is it that they are telling us that there's a climate emergency? Oh yeah, and remember that just because somebody tells the same lie 1,000 times, it doesn't make it the truth. Remember that. It doesn't have to be about politics, it doesn't have to be, it can be anything. Somebody can tell a lie about me and say it many, many times, and some people will believe it if they're told it enough times. They can tell a lie about you, and enough times it's said, people will believe it. So remember that just because it's told 1,000 times, it doesn't make it true. So, related to the air and the climate, they're now looking at the LTNs in 15-minute cities, which are to be installed on the streets of many towns, villages and cities throughout the UK, without prior consultation with the public. This is wrong, and it will be addressed. It's now time for the people of Ipswich and Suffolk, and in fact all towns, villages and cities throughout the UK, to stand together and show these councils that they work for us. They work for us. And therefore they have to listen to us and not simply steamroller over us because their paymasters tell them to. Councils are going to be challenged. Trust me, they're going to be challenged. They're not going to do this simply. It's not going to happen. They're going to be challenged, and they will have to show evidence of all of their claims. Let's look at utility bills as well. Utility bills continue to skyrocket, even though utility companies are making obscene profits going into billions. Billions. And yet we're told there's an energy crisis. Well, there's a crisis because people are being stripped to the bone because they can't afford to put the oven on to cook a dinner. They can't afford to put the heating on to keep themselves warm. You know, it's disgusting. Where's our MPs? Where's our MPs speaking up for the people about this? You know, every now and then I watch BBC Parliament and I look on there, and whenever there's a major subject to talk about, i.e. climate, you know, and the way young people are being let down, there's one or two people in the House. One or two people in the House of Commons. Where are the rest of the MPs? Oh, they'll tell you they're watching it in their office on the TV. Proof? Again, don't make the claim. Prove it. When it's time for them to get a pay rise, the House is full. Tell me I'm wrong. So regarding utility bills, I asked a question: where is the Ombudsman? And where is Ofgem? Where are the elected people who are supposed to fight for the people's rights? Because it seems, since March 2020, the people's rights have been eroded away to nigh on non-existent. Again, this is why we're finding ordinary Joe Public like myself and Bob and Jeff and so many others standing up and standing for local elections. Because if you lot, you MPs, any of you watching, or you councillors watching, if you're going to continue to let us down, we're going to come after your jobs. Look at the corporate-owned stores, your Tesco's, your Sainsbury's, your all them big stores. They're short of stock. Now, I'm not talking about stuff coming from abroad. I'm talking basic foodstuffs such as eggs, milk, rice. And we're told by the assistant in the store, and we don't have that in at the moment. Let's look at the prices. No food, but the prices are going up as well. The prices are rising beyond what the average person can afford. This practice is worsening, even though people don't want to acknowledge it. And please don't tell me everything comes from Russia, because quite honestly, that ship has sailed long since. I've not yet seen a chicken or a hen jump onto a boat and come in from Dover, from Russia or anything like that. They come from home. They're home. You know. The cows have come in from Russia as well, have they? No, they're here. People are being told lies left, right and centre. And so many people are falling for it because they don't and can't be bothered to look into it, so they go along with it. Go into the shops, come home and say to the husband, "Oh, Bert, You've got no milk in oh, the cows must be empty. People need to wake up, they really do. So I'm going to begin summing up now. And in summing up, I'm going to say this. I believe 100% that the COVID-19 pandemic was never a pandemic. And this whole thing was always about conditioning the people and seeing how much we would tolerate before pushing back and challenging the draconian measures being forced onto us. I've said it before and I'll say it again, my grandchildren will never be able to say to me, Grandad, why didn't you fight for us? They'll never be able to say that because they know I am. What about you? What are your grandchildren going to say? Nan, Grandad, did you fight for us? What are you going to say? Well, I thought it was going to happen anyway. Oh, okay. Crack on then. Just today, I read on the World Economic Forum website, WEF for short, that, no, listen to this, the pandemic has made us nicer towards other people. I find that absolutely, again, that's lunacy. If you believe that, then I suggest you go and get yourself sorted out. I've never seen so much nastiness going on in the world since March 2020. The quote, the pandemic has made us nicer towards other people, all I say to that is, what sheer and utter rubbish. I have seen firsthand the bitter hate, the increase exponentially since March 2020. The people have become more selfish, they've become more hostile, they've become greedier than before. People physically fight over food in shops. We have all seen, and some of us experienced and witnessed, loss of family relationships. I have. Yeah, I have. Loss of lifetime friendships. I have. I know a lot you have as well. Friends turning against one another. Friends no longer prepared to help others where once they would. And let me tell you why. All of the above. It's because we spoke out and refused to have something we don't want put into our bodies. So friends who would once say, yeah, I'll help you. Yeah, bring it over to me, I'll sort it out. Now it's a case of, sorry, I can't help. So when I see absurd quotes from the WEF website saying that the pandemic has made us nicer towards other people, poppycock, absolute poppycock. People have never been nastier. And I've got 65 years of experience as testimony for that. But the pandemic, I get a lot of people saying to me on my wall, it wasn't a pandemic. Well, I know that. There's no point telling me there wasn't. I know that. But I'm using that word because that's what people associate it with. Something had to open the door to all we're now seeing. And I firmly believe that COVID-19 was the globalist key to opening the door. It was a test of people to see how gullible, how we would fall for anything, tell you to stand outside and clap like a seal at 7:30 or 7 o'clock on a Thursday night, You know, everyone stand outside their doors looking across at each other. Bear in mind we couldn't see each other because we weren't supposed to, because we would kill each other. So we had to open our door and clap like seals, you know, for the NHS. The same NHS who allegedly were doing TikToks, dancing in the corridors while the hospital was empty. Allegedly. Now, why did we have a pandemic? Well, let's look at this, because I know why. I'd hazard to guess a lot of you know why as well. But let's look at this one. The pandemic was based on a test that was never fit for purpose. The creator of the PCR test, which was used to diagnose this virus, the creator of the PCR test, Dr. Carrie Mullis, warned against, note the word against, using it for diagnosing coronaviruses, COVID-19. And strangely, Dr. Carrie Mullis died suddenly, just a few short months before the so-called pandemic. After which, a certain Dr. Fauci took Dr. Carrie Mullis's PCR test and used it as a diagnostic tool for confirmation of COVID-19 infection. Tell me I'm wrong. I can show you I'm right. So tell me I'm wrong. You want to see? I'll show you. Ask me and I will give it to you. Agenda 2030 must never come to fruition. If I'm still alive, I'll be 72 years by 2030. And into my final years on this planet. So my concern right now isn't for myself, never has been. My concern is for the young people who have no voice, no say in how their world will be once they become adults. So who's going to fight for our young people? I've been doing it for 30 years and I'll continue to do that. Needs more people to stand up and fight. Throughout 2 world wars, the soldiers went off not knowing if they would ever see their loved ones again. So we're talking about people fighting for young people, yeah? So millions of those soldiers, bless them, millions of them didn't return because they died fighting for the freedom of others. They died fighting for our freedoms today. Are we going to let them die for nothing? Are we going to put our poppy on and put the poppy on and think that's it? No, it's not just about sticking a little flower on here. It's about doing it as well. They died so you could be free. And now all that they fought for is now being taken. So when you stick your poppy on, think about what you're putting it on for. Are you putting it on for them? Are you doing it for a virtual signal? I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to be truthful. Millions of these old boys, these soldiers, didn't return because they died fighting for the freedoms of others. Freedoms of their loved ones. Freedoms of people they didn't even know. And they fought for our freedoms, which are now being taken from us. Those old soldiers died fighting for us. And it's wrong that too many of us are simply rolling over and allowing it to be taken. Now, I'm not asking people to go to war and die whilst fighting for the freedoms of your loved ones. But I am asking that they fight for their freedoms Because if you don't fight, then who will? Remember, likes of me, I'm 65. I'll be gone. I'll be gone by 2030. Well, not long after 2030. Who's going to fight from then? Don't fight on your keyboards, guys. Do it for the real. So, who will fight for them? Because you can't rely on others to do the hard graft. Because this is why we're in this mess. Because we've relied on others. We've put way too much reliance on those MPs and councillors who down the years learned to take advantage of us. They make false promises and then they let us down each and every single time. So we now need to take our voices back. We now need to stand up, take our voices back and say no more. No more. The world is not owned by the 1%, even though they think they do. It's time to say no to Agenda 2030. It's time for positive change for the people, and that time is now. So on Thursday, the 4th of May 2023, you have an opportunity to vote for the Heritage Party, and we promise to stop Agenda 2030. And for the boys over in Thetford who are doing such an amazing job, setting an example to other towns, villages and cities throughout the UK, take my hat off to you guys. It's a pleasure working with you, and I'll continue to work with you. And we will, by hook or by crook, we're gonna make this world a better place for the young people who follow in our footsteps. All I'm asking for you guys to do is not do what we're doing. We're doing the hard work. Just stand with us. We'll do the talking. If you want us to say things, talk to us. If you haven't got the confidence to go out and do it, we'll do it. I'm out of my comfort zone right now doing all of what I'm doing. My comfort zone was just working with young people, mentoring young people and doing community stuff. That was my comfort zone. I've stepped out of it now. I've stepped out of it because someone's got to. So you stay in your comfort zones if you want to. But at least step out and support. You don't have to talk, you don't have to embarrass yourselves. I'm more than happy to look the wally. Done it for 65 years, another few more years ain't going to make no difference. But I'm asking you, think about your sons, your daughters, your grandchildren. Think about the life, the world they're going to have when the freedoms that you once had, which are now being taken, they will never have. And they will never know freedom because they have never experienced it. The new norm is something that they will not fight against because they will not know any different. We know different. And that's why I'm asking you to challenge these draconian measures, this tyranny which is being inflicted on people. Thank you for watching. God bless you all. And I'll be hoping for the best for everybody that's standing in the elections this Thursday, the 4th of May. Have a good evening. Thank you.